What were your sort of biggest fears about going bald?
But honestly, like I just wanted to get over the worries and the anxiety and the stress of, just trying to look in the mirror all the time and trying to see if it was okay. A lot of my friends told me, that takes guts because you're a young guy, and it takes guts to take a straight razor and just take it off. And it's actually kind of macho. Like you're funny with it, but you don't over joke about it so that it reveals like it still is insecurity to you.
Yes.
Like you just kind of like, it's just me. It makes you really tough at the end of it. Like once you decide to, go full on and shave it, it's like that vulnerability of yourself and that confidence that you didn't have is now there. Yeah. When I got back into that social setting, I was like, rocking it. I was very open with people. I was talking to people left and right. I made friends. I actually was really good with women because that was another concern that I had was how was it going to affect my view with women or how women would view me.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the Bald Cafe podcast. This is now episode 17. And I'm so pleased to welcome EJ on the show. EJ's coming from us all the way from the States, all the way from Florida. Welcome, EJ. It's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I've been meaning to come on to the podcast. I've been hearing the ones on the app, the podcast app, and then also on YouTube. So I'm really glad to be here.
Fantastic. That's the first person I've heard say that they listen on the podcast app. So I'm pleased for that.
Yeah.
It's really good to have you, man. First of all, I loved your email, right? When you sent me the email, I got the email first and it was the video. And I thought, oh no, what is this going to be? I had no idea what to expect. And I saw you there, enjoying the sunshine, man, looking good, looking happy. It was a great message, man. So I had to have you on. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
In true podcast style, we're going to go straight back to the beginning, right? We're going to start off with your story. This is about you sharing your story, your experience with hair loss, going bald. So when did it start happening for you? How old were you when it first started to go?
Well, I actually noticed it really early, but it was sort of like, I kind of noticed that. So I used to have like a really nice hairline, kind of like really square. And then I kind of noticed like it started to angulate a little bit.
Right.
When I was about 19, but I didn't really have any thinning yet. It was just like, oh, this is not normal. And I thought it was because like my barber would kind of like change it up to make it like kind of straight again.
Yeah. And
so that was about 19. And then when I really started to notice it was in university.
Yeah.
I started getting a little bit more stressed. My lifestyle kind of changed. I was doing a little bit more things to my body that were unhealthy. And then I stopped working out as much because I was going through applications for grad school and I was just really stressed out and I just didn't know how to manage it. Yeah. And that's when I really started to see the triggering happen. And that's when I really started to get into research and everything. And I was like, wow, this is okay. So this is going to start happening. Right. I got to learn how to tackle it head on.
So this was in university time. So we're talking about, I want to say like you said, 19, 20 years old, 21, something like that?
I really, really started noticing it at 20 and a half.
Right.
So about February of 2018.
Right, okay.
I was in my junior year of university, and I was, it's kind of like you're starting to get into your prime years, right?
Yeah.
You're going to school, you're about to either go to grad school or start looking for internships and jobs, and that was like a big part of, my appearance, right? And so was my hair. So I was like, oh man, I gotta do something about this, right? As soon as I can. So like kind of like control the situation. But then little by little, it just kind of kept getting worse. And I was trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I see. And was it just sort of, you said no sort of thinning, but the hairline was sort of going backwards here at the sort of sides?
Well, I still kind of have like a decent hairline right here, kind of like a semicircle here.
Yeah.
Problem was I started seeing patches all over,
okay.
like kind of like thinning everywhere, and then I had like a bald spot at the back.
Right. Yeah. So
where I started to notice thinning.
Same as me then, similar sort of thing to what I have going on almost. It sounds like yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome now, but at the time we know it's not so awesome. And so you said you started to think.
Definitely.
You started to think, how can I combat this and stuff? So What was your first sort of thoughts when it was thinning? Did you look for ways to kind of stop this and prevent this, or did you turn to anyone for advice?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like internalized it a lot. I didn't really talk about it at first to anyone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want anyone to notice it. And having me talking about it would have people notice it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just was in denial for a little bit, for about a month or so. And then once summer rolled around, I kind of like really started to notice. I'm like, oh, there's a patch right here in the front kind of missing. So then I started to style my hair differently.
Right.
And then that was around the time where Hims, the program for men that I don't know if they have it over in the UK or in Europe.
I've heard
Hims
of it.
is like the American company where they have the vitamins, the monodoxil, the Propecia finasteride, whatever. And I started looking that up, and I started off with Hims first.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That's good because. Yeah, I've seen you've got Hims and you've got Keeps.
Keeps, yeah.
Two sort of similar things, which, like you said, is literally they rebrand minoxidil and Propecia, and they also, like you said, they have vitamins, biotin or whatever, and they sort of take the usual treatments or whatever, and they rebrand them into this sort of cool, convenient way that seems like it seems like it's something new. I have to say it's very clever, right?
It is super clever. It's a great business decision.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, because again, they make this false sort of promise that it's this be-all and end-all cure to keeping your hair. And I think it's Hims that uses that tagline, hair loss is a choice now. I think that's the one they use. It's a choice. And it makes people feel like you said, if they use that, they can get it all back. And so it's very clever branding, and I'm assuming that's what drew you in as well. You went online, saw the adverts, right? It's very well done, very well. They've obviously got a decent budget, and it's sort of mail order, right? It just comes in the post, and you start doing all those treatments. Is that how it works? Yeah,
it's just the convenience of it that kind of like really attracts people. And another thing I wanted to say was, they actually got celebrities to be on their commercials, so that even drew me even more. It can draw people more. Like they had Snoop Dogg for like erectile dysfunction, because they do that as well. Yeah. But they also did, they do it for the hair, and they do it for the ED and stuff like that. So it's clever. So that drew me in, and that's what kind of like made me try it at first. Yeah, because I was just honestly looking for answers after I kind of got past the denial stage, like, oh, this can't be happening right now. Yeah. Okay, I get it. So you're denying it. You don't want to sort of bring attention to it. I think that's probably how it was, right? Like you said, if you sort of start to acknowledge it and tell people about it, then it's real. It's more real. And I think that seems to be, I do similar things. I think a lot of guys do similar things, The minute we start talking about these things, and they become real, and that's difficult to deal with, right? And so you're using this Hims. And one thing I wanted to ask as well, I just wrote a blog post on this recently, is when you realized that it's not just in your head, and the hair is going, what were your sort of biggest fears about going bald? Like, what were the things that you feared most? I think definitely self-acceptance and like my own image. Like, how would I perceive myself when I looked in the mirror? Was I going to be happy with the person that I was seeing? Right. Yeah. Was my family and friends going to be happy with who they were seeing? And was this another very important one, because currently I'm going to be a dental student in the fall. And there's kind of like this appearance aspect to that culture, that career culture, right? Because smile, beautiful teeth, which I think I have a nice smile, and I was always like fixated with the fact like I have to have this great appearance, like this ideal appearance, and not having the hair might kind of affect that. Like, are people going to perceive me as a doctor the same way as if I had hair, or if I did not have hair? Yeah. Because a lot of times I see in like magazines or stuff, like I can kind of tell when people are wearing the hairpiece. Yes. They're trying to like hide the fact that they're bald because they're trying to keep up the appearance of being, I guess, this professional doctor, clean shaven, full head of hair sort of look. So that kind of worried me as well. So all these kind of things were happening and was getting me stressed and anxious about it.
So, I mean, it was the same for me. A lot of the things that guys worry about when they're going bald is mainly how other people are going to perceive us, right? What are other people going to think of this look, appearance, you know? I thought the same. I thought it's going to look ugly. Everyone's going to think I'm weird. Everyone's going to think I'm old, you know, and I worried so much about what other people are going to think. And it's an interesting point you make there about, I feel like it's maybe the medical field. Well, you could argue every field, but if I ever see an advert for anything medical, you're right. There's usually, you know, the doctor or dentist, like you said, maybe a man, a woman. He sort of stood there, arms folded, with his scrubs on, with his perfect short on the sides, you know, longer on top hairstyle with this bright smile. Yeah, I totally get it. I can see why that would be a concern, because that's very, like you said, a sort of image-focused industry, really. Image-focused industry. I mean, obviously, you need good teeth for good health, right? But that is also, you know, obviously goes down with your image. Okay, so by this time, are you still in your sort of 20s at this time? 21? Early 20s, I mean?
I'm about to turn 22.
Okay.
I turned 22 in July.
Yeah.
So I'm 21 currently. And like I said, I kind of noticed it about a year ago when it started. So it kind of happened really fast.
Yeah.
It was like catching like wildfire. I was just like, all right, well, now what? And some people kind of say that I pulled the trigger kind of early.
Yeah.
As far as like going bald, because I still have the hairline, and maybe I could have done something about the thing. But honestly, like I just wanted to get over the worries and the anxiety and the stress of, you know, just trying to look in the mirror all the time and trying to see if it was okay, if beams of light were just going through and like revealing my scalp and stuff. So yeah. I mean, I just wanted an image that I was happy with and that, you know, I could accept, you know, I didn't want to be constantly worried about that.
Yeah, it's an important point you bring up there. Excuse me. Is this whole thing of when, right? When should you shave it off? When should you buzz it? Can it be too early and things like that? Well, the thing that I say, and again, this was actually the first article I wrote about it, is it's not about how much, for me, it's like you said, it's not about how much hair you still have left on your head. It's all about how it makes you feel, right? Because some guys could have it really thin, and this is a rarity, but they don't worry about it constantly. You know, they sort of accept it's going. When it really gets too much, I'll just get rid of it, right? I've got that friend Andrew, he's also been on the podcast. He kind of seems to be in that role. He's just not really that fussed by it. And so he's happy to leave it until it goes. But, you know, for me, like you said, if especially if you're studying or working on your career, you've got other things that you want to do, you can't live your life successfully like that and be constantly worrying, you know, about your hair and thinking about if people looking at me or how does it look. It's just not a healthy frame of mind to be in. And you know, like you said, you know that this is only going one way, right? It's going to start to fall out. It's going to be less and less. And you can't spend your time either A, worrying about it, or B, constantly fussing about putting minoxidil on it to grow it back and checking the progress. Like, is it growing back? Or, you know, all this derma rolling, all this onion juice, just to kind of delay the inevitable, really. And yeah, you know, like you said, people say the same thing to me. They say, oh, you've still got hair, you could have done something with that. But it's not really the point, you know. I don't need to, because I just need to get this done. All the time. Yeah, you just need to get it done. And to be fair and to be respectful to those people, all that stuff at best, you know, it just, like you said, allows you to hold on to what you have. The only thing that I've seen that really can get it back to looking anything remotely how it was before it started falling out is a hair transplant, you know. And I'm definitely not willing to spend the money and do all of that stuff just to keep hold of the hair, because at the end of the day, like we know now, the hair, it doesn't define you. It doesn't make up who you are. And so that's an interesting point, you know, people saying, oh, you did it too early, but it's about how you feel. It's not about necessarily how much hair you still have left on your head, you know?
Yeah, a lot of my friends told me, you know, that takes guts because you're a young guy, and it takes guts to take a straight razor and just take it off. And it's actually kind of macho. Like what, I think what some of my friends were saying is like, you know, you're owning your situation, and then you're trying to make the best out of your situation. You're turning a negative into a positive by doing that, you know, and it'll make you more, I guess, inspired or motivated to do other things, you know.
For 100%, man, that your friends are right, you know. And it's interesting, I you know, when you take that action and you're decisive, and other people see that, they think, oh wow, like, you know, he's actually gone for it, and he is owning it, and he's rocking it. And when you're in that position, there's nothing anyone can say to you negatively or poke fun at you or question you that can really make you question yourself or doubt yourself, because you're sure of it, you know, you're sure of the decision you've made. And that's such a powerful sort of frame of mind to be in, don't you think?
Absolutely. Like, I haven't gotten it yet because I kind of went with the buzz sort of recently, about a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't really gotten any name calling, any not really anyone poking too much at it. But I'm kind of already prepared for that. Like, and my mindset wise, like if they want to call me a cue ball, I don't care. Like, I call myself that. As long as you're like, if you're funny with it, but you don't over joke about it, so that it reveals like it still is insecurity to you.
Yes.
Like you just kind of like, you know, it's just me, you know, and then you kind of like just shrug your shoulders and like, yeah, if you don't like it, you can, you know, do whatever.
Well,
I don't care.
You mentioned to me recently that you took a trip to Vegas, right? And I would have thought if there would have been a place where any random people would have made comments or whatever, it would have been there, right? I've been there myself. And so how was that? Was that your first experience of sort of getting out there and you know, being in that sort of social setting with the new look?
Yeah, it was. And when I did decide to, you know, shave it off, I had to reinvent my look a little bit. I switched my glasses. I grew the beard out a little bit. And, you know, I had always been like very open with fashion, like as far as like wearing certain types of shirts, colors, you know, certain textiles, like whatever it was, silk, cotton. And I was very open with that. And, you know, I was just, you know, experimenting with it, and it actually like worked really well. Like people really liked my style, and I was very social. I didn't let it kind of like change who I was, because during the actual balding process, I got a little bit more tense, and I was like very like kind of like uptight while it was happening, and I would make less eye contact with people, and it was noticeable.
Wow, yeah.
So when I got back into that social setting, I was like rocking it. I was very open with people. I was talking to people left and right. I made friends. I actually was really good with women, because that was another concern that I had, was how is it going to affect my view with women, or how women would view me.
Yeah.
And it actually, in some ways, helped, and it never really had any negative aspect to it.
Yeah, because I guess, like you said, Fredson, like your friends maybe mentioned too, it gives you this almost like a new sense of self-security and confidence, right? And the thing that I think maybe it is also is everything is on the table, like that you're not hiding anything. It's all out there. And so you're almost going in with that approach of take it or leave it. You've got nothing to lose, right? When you're owning like your true self, you've shaved it off and that's who you are. There's no secret to how you look, or your personality, or the way you dress, the way you look. And so when you approach someone, you're not ever going to be second guessing yourself, like, oh, are they going to notice this, or oh, what if they find out about that? It's just out there, right? It's just hello, this is me, take it or leave it. And I love that. I think that is, again, a reason why that sort of confidence comes out in a lot of guys when they finally just say, you know, to hell with this. Let's just own it. Let's just rock it. So I love that, man. I'm so glad you had that experience, and hopefully, you know, it can continue to build on it, like you said. And that's fantastic. That's fantastic. When you were still using this hymns and things like that, did you start to talk to anyone about it? Did you ever open up to anyone about this sort of hair loss stuff?
I think it was just mostly my family, like my parents, and my grandparents, because my grandfather on my mother's side is bald, but he lost his hair later on in life, like about 50. He was kind of going bald.
Okay. And
then so did my great grandfather on that side. However, my dad has a perfect full head of hair at 53. So it's kind of like, all right, where did I get this from? You know, and we kind of didn't see it on the same level, him and I. Because he had never had a problem with hair loss. So I kind of spoke to my mom more about it because, I don't know, she was just more, I guess, comforting about it. Yeah. Like she kind of knew it was a sensitive situation. So she would kind of, you know, try to, I guess, console me, like help me out with with it and like research.
Yes.
And try to do stuff to help me out with it. But, yeah, like they were kind of like hesitant to accept me completely shaving it super early. I think my dad was kind of like, "Oh, why'd you do it so early?" Like, because he's big on the image aspect too, and he was kind of like disappointed at first, but he kind of like just eventually accepted it.
Yeah.
So, and that was tough because it's my father, you know, it's my father. So, and you always want to make your parents proud.
Definitely.
If you're a good son, you know.
Definitely. I had a similar experience with my mother as well. You know, I think she said, "Oh, what? You know, why did you do that? You know, you didn't need to do that." Is what she said, and I think again, it's because, like your father, they haven't had that experience, and so going back to people who say you did it too early, I really think it's because they don't really understand how hair loss is such a mental game as well. You know, and you just can't waste time and waste your days, you know, just constantly worrying about things like that. It's much better to just get on with it, right? Just get on with it. So what changed for you? What was the sort of, when did you start to think, you know, maybe taking the hymns and stuff like that isn't the best option? How did that sort of play out?
When I continued to research it, I saw that, you know, eventually when you would stop any of these products, whether it be minoxidil or finasteride, anything sort of that's prescription or topical that's chemical, the hair, there's a good possibility that the hair would likely refall out again and even more aggressively. You know, so if this is something that I would have to do for the rest of my life, I'd rather not do it, because to have an itchy scalp for the next 80 years, I mean, hopefully, I mean, is crazy. It's crazy talk. Like, and it's annoying. It's something that I would have to do every day that I wasn't up for, you know? And also I was looking into the side effects of finasteride, and, you know, to be impotent, to possibly have no interest in sex, you know, erectile dysfunction, like, that's not me, you know? Like, I date regularly, and, you know, I have like a healthy sex life and whatever. And so I think that would have been crazy. It's just to keep my hair, I would have another part of my life completely ruined. Yeah. You know? Just to salvage something of my appearance. Yeah. When it has no ending effect on me, you know? Yeah.
Just a side note, and I just thought about this just then. I wouldn't think it was, but isn't it interesting how Hims, they do a product that keeps your hair, but in one of those products it's known there's a side effect for sexual dysfunction, and they just so happen to have another product that is aimed at guys with erectile dysfunction. I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to say like, oh, it must be that reason why they offer that, because I know, you know, there's lots of things that can cause ED for certain guys, especially when they get older. But that is an interesting point, right? That is quite. I don't know if it's clever on their part, but anyway. So yeah, you come to the realization that this stuff is for life. If you want to keep the hair, you have to constantly keep doing that. And when you were taking those products, did the worrying stop? Did you sort of forget about it and think, oh, did you notice the sort of hair coming back, or how long did you use it for?
I used it for about, I want to say 2-3 months.
Right.
And then
did you notice much?
I canceled my.
Did you notice much difference in that time?
I noticed in that time it kind of like it wasn't as aggressive anymore, and it kind of stayed there, and it was a little bit better.
Right.
But I mean the results weren't as that satisfying to me because I still had the thinning happening, and I guess when you're trying to use a product like that, patience is really key. But when it's a situation that's so sensitive, it's like you're trying to get it to that final, desirable outcome, right? So I kept trying it, and then I was just like, it actually made me feel kind of a little bit worse because if it entered like this, I entered this realm of like kind of like hopelessness. Like when I was using something that was marketed to help me in my situation, but it wasn't really doing much. It's like, all right, now what? That's kind of how I was looking at it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In that moment.
Yeah, for sure. So it wasn't like you used it and the hair sort of stayed and the worrying went with it, right? I guess, yeah, I think it's well known as well that things like minoxidil and whatnot, they just sort of, again, allow you to hold on, but eventually those things start to stop working as well. For some guys, that might be 2 years. For others, that might be 10. But I guess knowing that in the back of your mind, it's going to be very hard to put that worrying at ease, right, at bay. So you sort of decided, I can't do this forever, with the more research that you did. And so what sort of things were you finding? What sort of things were you finding online and things like that to sort of give you that idea that, oh, maybe accepting it? Did someone say, oh, just shave it off? Or how did what took you to that next stage?
Well, my next stage was actually taking a more natural approach. So I went back to my old lifestyle of working out, taking vitamins, just focusing more on my health.
Yes. And
my well-being, to maybe see if maybe it was the stress. So I did a lot of stress management, meditation, the whole array of things you can think of to like help manage yourself. Taking the natural approach, I switched to the shampoo made by Hair Restoration Laboratories.
Right.
And I actually kind of liked it. And when I was using it, like the actual follicles felt thicker, but I didn't really notice too much of new follicle. The only new follicles that I noticed were like tiny white hairs around the front and in the hair, the bald spot in the back. And so I kind of have been sticking with that. If I wash my hair, I wash it with that because, something is better than nothing. And if it's a natural approach, because I use things like saw palmetto, I believe it is, rosemary oil, things that you can find in nature, and there's no parabens, sulfates, chemicals that can really harm your body or harm your scalp. So I said, what the heck? If it works, it works. If it looks a little bit better, fine. If not, So usually, like my grooming routine will be, I'll shave it every 4 days because I still have some hair that grows at the top.
Yeah.
And then after every 3 or 4 days, I'll wash it once, and then I'll take the razor and do it again and shave it again after I wash it.
Yeah.
To maybe see if the oils, the essential oils, will set into the scalp. But that's kind of like the only maintenance that I'm doing with it right now.
Right.
Because, like I said, something is better than nothing, and I'm already at the point where I accepted it.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't come back, that's fine. If it does, good. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Just trying it, right? Just seeing if it can do anything. And like you said, those things aren't known to, like you said, natural, aren't going to have side effects. So no, I can respect that for sure, 100%. I guess in the sense that it's different, right? If you're using something like relying on it so much, like please, let this be the thing that's going to make that hair come back. Then we go back to the whole mental thing. It's just not healthy mentally, to be in that sort of frame of mind. But no, man, that's cool. Keeping it natural, seeing how it goes, I can respect that for sure. And so, did you go when you first did it? Was it a buzz cut, or were you straight in with the razor?
It was actually kind of a funny experience. So I went into the barbershop, and I hadn't been there in a while because I actually went into a trip in Europe to visit some friends over there that I had that were studying over there. And I'm like, I kind of noticed the thinning during, what was it, January. So I was like, let me try and buzz it, see how it looks. And it looked pretty good when I buzzed it. And I still had like kind of like a nice hairline still going. And then when I got back to the States, I let it grow out again. And then when I started my new job, I was kind of like getting, used to working. And I guess the stress and whatever was making it fall out again. And then I said, let me buzz it again. And when I walked into the barber, it was the shortest I had ever done. I did a 1 on the top and a half on the sides. When I used to do like a 3, or the lowest was a 2. But I did a 1 on the top and a half on the sides. And the guy was looking at me like I was kind of crazy because he recognized me. And he had been cutting my hair for so long. He's like, hey, why are you doing this? It's like, trust me, I'm going to see if it works out for me. And then if not, I'll just grow it back out again.
Yeah.
So that's when I finally decided. And then the next time that I did it by myself with just 0 all around with the buzzer, the machine.
Yeah.
And then after that was when I finally said, you know what, let me try the straight razor. And the straight razor felt really nice. And after a day or so, when I can touch it, it feels good.
Yeah.
So when you get a little bit of the stubble going.
Yeah, it's just clean, right? That's sort of the progression, the gradual approach. Yeah, it's a popular choice. You go with the sort of, you've still got a style, like you said, 2 on top, 1 on top. Maybe a 0 or something on the sides. And then you go for the 0 all over when you're feeling a bit cocky one day, you're feeling overconfident, and then when you realize, hey, that's not so bad, that it's always in the mind, like, oh, I wonder what it's like to actually wet shave it. And then when you do, and like you said, it's super clean. I find it's more convenient as well because you can sort of feel if there's any hair left. It's really easy to get a totally even cut, exactly, right, when you're doing it yourself. And then like you said, you've got a good few days where it's still looking nice and clean and nice and well kept, That's awesome. And so, like you said, you're doing it every 4 days now. Every 4 days. Mm-hmm. Are you shaving it in the shower, or do you sort of wet the head and go like that?
So, just to get the pores open, I would take like a decent temperature hot shower, and then I would come out, and then I would put the shaving cream. I would shave it with a straight razor, and then I would put like an aloe vera aftershave. Yeah. And then I would sometimes put some lotion that had vitamin E and stuff. So I'm not just shaving it and leaving it like that. And then I would sometimes, after I would shave it, I would go back into the shower and put cold water to close my pores. Yes. So that I don't get any, like stubbles, like razor burns or stuff like that. Yeah,
any no ingrowing hairs. Yeah, sounds solid, man. Sounds like a solid routine. I want to talk a bit about your advice as well for other people. You mentioned a lot about a healthy sort of lifestyle, working out. You said you started a new job, and for me, when you're going through this sort of switch of just having this new, rebranding yourself as this bold guy, I think things like that are really important. Good habits, things that you can focus on, things that you can work in to progress. Because if you don't have those, there's a chance that you're going to be sat around, moping and not falling in love with your new look. So from your own experience in that, your own advice, how would you advise people? Let's start with how would you advise people on what route to take if they're first discovering, that their hair's falling out? From your own experience, have you got any advice for those guys?
I would say if you're not ready yet, try to maintain it as long as possible. Because like we've mentioned before, it's a sensitive issue for men. Yeah. Especially if you're young. If you're young like me, I'm 21. Try to keep it as long as you can until you're happy with, eventually shaving it. Because that's the most important part. If you're happy with what you look like and how you feel, that's the best. And the lifestyle aspect is, if you have like addictive personality, try to do things that are helpful for you and get like hooked on that. Like if it's working out or reading up on nutrients and vitamins and healthy choices and dieting, cooking, whatever it may be. And then also keep yourself either busy or meditate and relax your mind so that you can kind of like stay fresh all the time and stay ready and focused.
When you talk about keeping it for as long as you can, do you mean just if it's falling out, try not to freak out about it? It's probably not as bad as you really think it is. You don't need to rush off and buzz it off straight away. Or do you mean try to hold on to it with the drugs and things like that? Just for clarity.
I mean, I can't speak for anyone else. Like everyone's situation is completely unique to them. I would say though, if you want to take on the drug aspect, then go right ahead. It may extend the life of your follicles, but in my case, I kind of and what you said, like, don't worry about it, because I think the worrying and overthinking and the stressing about it may have actually contributed to it like being so aggressive and falling out faster, is because I was constantly on top of it. So I was trying to style it in certain ways, and maybe I was just putting too much stress on it that, it was accelerating the process.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's probably not as bad as you think, because no one really noticed it at first until I started mentioning it. And then they looked at my scalp and said, oh yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Yeah. So just keep a good mindset with it. If it's happening, you're not alone, and it's something that happens in life, and don't be afraid to tackle it on. And eventually, if you can get to the point of accepting it, you've won the battle.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose we should say as well, what was the thing that switched for you the sort of acceptance route as well? When did that sort of change for you, when you really thought, or was there a catalyst for it? Was there a single moment, or did it just sort of lead up to that where you just thought, oh, maybe, just accepting this is the best option?
Well, when people started to notice it, it kind of got under my skin.
Right.
And so, like people would poke at it a little bit. Like some of my friends, they would call me grandpa sometimes, because I was losing it and I was young. It's like, oh man, you look like a grandpa. And I was like, well, damn, that I know. You're just in a situation where you don't know what to say at that point, because you're vulnerable. Yeah. You're extremely vulnerable.
And that's why they say it. That's why they say it, because they know it's going to get to you, and you
exactly
you show vulnerability towards it. Yeah. Exactly.
And so, kind of like all those hits I was taking from people, like some of my closest friends, my family, that were kind of like picking at it, to eventually where I said, you know what, I'm going to make a post on my Instagram story. I'm going to find the brightest light I can and shine it on my scalp, take a picture, and write a paragraph about how I'm feeling right now.
Wow.
And I said...
And you did that?
I did that, and
wow.
I posted it on my Instagram story. I got 700 views, and I got like 100 responses. Like, they said, yo, this takes guts.
Yes.
You're a man for this. And even women... I had women that I was pursuing before that said, you're still hot, you just look more American now, because I'm Latino. So they said you just look more white now. Yeah, but you're still hot.
Yeah. Man, I love that. Massive respect for that, because that's what it's all about. I think when you open yourself up to it and you just go for it, that's what changes. That's when people, like you said, it commands respect. People respect that so much. And it's almost like the thing that people fear most, right? The thing that you also feared most, people finding out, people knowing. And then when you yourself put it out there, the response literally every time, because listen, the majority of people are not horrible people, right? They're not assholes. And people from everywhere come out of the woodwork and just say, you know what, like, that's awesome, fair play, you know, and they respect it so much. So I love that, man. I love that. That's yeah, well done for doing that. And also, again, you never know, by doing things like that, you never know who else you're helping, right? Who else is going to see it and think and be like, oh yeah, like crap, like me too, right? But I'm not, you know, maybe they thought I'm not about to be putting posts about this stuff, but you may, you know, you might have just have changed that for someone and allowed them to sort of think about it a bit differently. So that's awesome, man. That's so good.
Yeah, I did that, and I mean, it can be, it kind of like can inspire anyone that's going through like a sensitive issue, like whether it's their weight, or, you know, if they're going through acne, or if they have, you know, stretch marks, or whatever the case may be. It's like, if you, there's perfection in the imperfections, right? So if there's a way that you can accept the imperfection and own it as yourself and run with it, there's nothing more attractive, there's nothing more that you can respect than something like that.
Definitely.
Like I said, you know, owning your situation, that only gives you more motivation, and it's catchy. You know, it can light a fire under someone else, you know, and it can move them in a sort of way. And it was proven to me when people were responding to my posts about it. Like, I posted a before and after, like, of me in September of 2018, and, you know, my hair was perfectly fine. Like, I had a full head of hair. And then fast forward to May 2019, I decided to shave it off.
Yeah.
And so, like, I wasn't ashamed of doing that. And so people were responding so much that saying, like, you know, don't worry about it. You're so much more than your appearance, and you actually look really good right now. And you're glowing. Like, you look like you're genuinely happy right now, which was really comforting to hear. Like, people were like, "Oh, I love your new look." It was like, you know, that's awesome, because I always had this dark cloud, you know, over me of, you know, the hair loss that was kind of like anchoring me and weighing me down. Yes. So, like I said, try to stay busy, and if you have hobbies or talents, you know, continue them, because that'll get your mind to continue working, and if you're struggling with hair loss, it'll get your mind off of the hair loss. Like, I play guitar and I play instruments. I DJ a little bit. And so just keep doing what you love, and you won't stress, or it'll help you not stress about the situation as much. Also, going through the process, I kind of learned how to take on insults or teasing, right?
Right.
So it made my skin a lot tougher. So it makes you really tough at the end of it. Like, once you decide to, you know, go full on and shave it, it's like that vulnerability of yourself and that confidence that you didn't have is now there. You understand? Like, you're not vulnerable anymore, and you've accepted it, which is good. So, and at the end of the day, probably the last thing I want to say of my articulation is that look in the mirror, and if you're happy with who you are and who you see, I mean, there's nothing better than that, you know. And one of my idols is, fun enough, is Pitbull, because he grew up in Miami as well. We came from similar backgrounds. He was Cuban American, and his family, you know, made something of themselves in this country. So he didn't let his appearance kind of like weigh him down. He's an entrepreneur. He's made hit singles. He's broken so many records for who he is and where he came from, and people love him so much for what he does.
Yes.
And he's opened schools in Miami-Dade County, and so he's such a revered person that who cares if he has hair or not? And he's almost like adopted it as his brand. The goatee, the aviator glasses, and the bald head, and the suit, and he rocks that like no one else can.
Yeah, I love that. And
that's inspiring, you know.
Yeah, it is inspiring. And like you said, he's a guy who's in this sort of world of where people put your appearance at the highest of, you know, they value it so highly, and yet
Yeah,
no,
it's a music industry.
Like you said, no one's like judging him on that. Like you said, it's kind of almost like his sort of trademark. Oh, Pitbull,
Yeah.
oh, the bald guy. But everyone who knows what he does and whatnot, like you mentioned there, you know, that's not the thing about him. And it's going to be the same for anyone, you know, any person who isn't a celebrity or whatever. People are going to judge you on, at the end of the day, on who you are and what you do. You know, you're not valued, you're not judged by the hair on your head. You know, and just like the same, like your friend said to you, like the women said to you, it's not about the hair. It's not about how you look. It really is about who you are, right? And how you carry yourself. And EJ, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, man. You're a smart guy.
Thank you, man. It was a pleasure being here.
You're a smart guy. I really like your outlook on it all. And your advice. You gave us some great advice there. And so to anyone who's listening, you know, I really do think that this stuff helps. There's going to be guys listening who are in the same position that we were back then. You know, like you said, this dark cloud of hair loss hanging over them. And even if you might think there's nothing on the other side, only misery and sadness being bald, it could not be further from the truth, right? It really isn't. So I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. To all the people listening, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And we will see you in the next episode of the Bald Cafe podcast. See you later.
See ya.
Cut some cords, spread some scars, put on your cape and jump from the car. Open your mouth, take a deep breath, run fast and don't stop at the end. You can be anything you want.